Hello and welcome back to the Hutchinson Veterans Outreach Program. Today we have with us Colonel Laura Ludwig.
Yes.
And we are going to be talking about a little bit about the Women's Veterans Initiative and some other things that you've got going on. Full bird colonel.
Yes.
That is a lot for a woman.
Something I'm very proud of.
And we thank you for that. From my understanding, you've done multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan?
Yes, multiple tours, Kuwait, Afghanistan, Iraq, and several tours at Landstuhl Regional Medical Center in Germany.
Wow. Wow. You are also, from my understanding, part of the American Legion?
I belong to the American Legion.
The VFW?
I'm a life member at the VFW 494 and the American Legion in Wayzata 118 post.
Very nice. As well as the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Group.
Yes.
That you don't hear very often.
No, you don't hear very often. It's a select group of combat veterans that ride motorcycles. And our motto is Vets Helping Vets. And so we do a lot of charity work. We do a lot of charity rides to raise money. This spring we just did the I Got Your Six ride.
Nice.
And all the profits to that went to Haven for Heroes, the shelter for veterans out in Anoka. And it's a great group of people, and we have something in common. And it's people you can talk to and you relate to, whereas veterans can't talk to a lot of people and relate to a lot of people. But this is my tribe. I found my people there.
Very nice, very nice. Now, the Haven for Heroes, can you tell us a little bit about what you do with them?
Well, Haven for Heroes is a group of buildings out in Anoka. It used to be the Anoka Psych Hospital.
Okay.
And for many years it was vacant and became dilapidated and vandalized and whatever. And then they rented it or gifted it somehow to be a benefit for veterans. They wanted something. And we had Eagles Healing Nest in initially, and they provided the setup and whatever, and the whole community came out to remodel and refurbish these buildings. And there was asbestos, and we had to tear out all the plumbing and the electricity. So we have 3 living buildings, 2 for men, 1 for women, and then we have an auditorium.
So they're very hands-on.
They're very hands-on. And so we have many veterans living there now. We're going to be remodeling Cottage 3. That's going to be more of a family, where if a veteran and his wife and child are homeless, they have a place to stay intact with their family.
Very nice.
We also offer services, counseling services, help with the Vets Court, help job finding. We have a group called Battle Buddies USA, and we go out there once a week and provide interview skills, job training, job interview, to help the veterans go back out into the community and find meaningful employment. So that's up in Anoka, and we're raising money to remodel and finish off the 3rd building for the families and the auditorium, so we can hold events that raise money for veterans.
Very nice, very nice. I know most of the things from what I've been looking at and what I've been researching with what you're doing are all kind of tied in together. You are a special project officer for the Women's Veterans Initiative.
Yes.
And this kind of wraps up and ties everybody else together, if I'm not mistaken.
No, we all are interconnected, whether it's through the Haven for Heroes or the Eagle's Nest or the Battle Buddies organization or the Minnesota Military Exchange Program. We are all looking to work for and serve veterans and their families.
Exactly. It's noble causes, very noble causes. I'd like to speak to you a little bit more about the Women's Initiative.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? How did you get started in this?
Well, this was a group of women that started maybe 15 years ago.
Okay.
And they got together more socially because, again, these women veterans had nobody to really talk to and share their stories with. Nobody understood exactly what they went through. And the more they got together, they realized that there was work to be done, that we need awareness and we need advocacy and we need wellness programs and we need to shine a light on women veterans.
Exactly.
So we became a 501c3 organization. We're affiliated with the Minnesota Humanities Center, and we try and conduct activities that enhance and support women veterans and veterans overall. We go and do stand downs, we do retreats, we do a lot of things. We're involved in legislation. We were the group that was involved and pushed forward the legislation for a female woman's license plate.
Yeah.
That finally got passed, and so those are some of the things we're really proud of. We also developed a program called Sister a Sister, where if you are a female veteran and you want to go to the VA hospital and you don't feel comfortable walking around this male-dominated organization, especially if you've had issues like with military sexual trauma or discrimination or sexual harassment, we have somebody that will go with you and walk you to appointments and guide you through the process and just be there as a support person. So we're available to help any female veteran that is interested. I have people call me, I'm homeless, I don't know what to do. I refer them to the Eagle's Nest, or I refer them to Haven for Heroes, and we work closely with Minnesota Assistance Council for Veterans, MACV, and every year we put on a golf tournament in
And you have one coming
with
up
them.
here?
Yes, so this was our sixth year. We had it last June. We raised $44,000 for the homeless women and for women's veteran services. And so now our sixth annual will be June 23rd, 2020. So it's not too soon to sign up and start swinging your golf clubs and be out there. And all the profits from this golf tournament that's held out at Prestwick Golf Course will go back through MACV for veteran services.
Very nice, very nice. I know one of the things that we had discussed earlier is talking about women vets.
Yes.
Actually being able to go up and find women vets is kind of a hard thing to do because we tend to stay in the background.
Right.
So how do we get more women vets to come out and to tell their stories, to let people know that, hey, there are a lot of women veterans?
There are a lot of women veterans, and we think this is key, an initiative to bring them out from the shadows. A lot of women don't identify as veterans.
Yep.
And, or they don't think they should declare themselves as a veteran because maybe they weren't carrying a machine gun and shooting people. But if you wore the uniform and you served your country, you are a veteran.
Exactly.
And so I think we need to identify with that and own that as veterans. And women veterans are typically an underserved population because we don't speak up. So that is one of our initiatives through WVI, is to identify women veterans.
Exactly.
And to bring them into our fold, provide them awareness, provide advocacy, provide programs and retreats, and get them to tell their story. And there was a thing that was held out in Oregon a couple years ago by the Oregon VA, or the Oregon Women Veterans Organization, and they had a display or a campaign that we are not invisible.
Yeah.
And it was all about women veterans. And we had one of our state coordinators out there for that meeting and saw that, along with Bridget Cronin, the director of Ars Spellum, that does art therapy for veterans. And she saw this and says, we have to do this in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So we brought it back and started our own I Am Not Invisible campaign. And with that, we are hoping to find these women, that are scattered all over. World War II veterans, Vietnam, Korean women veterans, current conflict women veterans, and get them to step up and tell their story. And we are not invisible.
And as we were talking about earlier, there's no such thing as I just.
Exactly.
I was just a typist. I was just a secretary. I was just someone
Right.
who isn't considered a veteran. It's like, no, if you served, you are a veteran.
If you served, if you signed that oath, you are a veteran. It doesn't
Exactly.
matter where you served or in what capacity you served. When you signed that oath, you dedicated yourself to our country,
Exactly.
up into including your life.
Exactly.
And some people got deployed, some people didn't. And it wasn't a volunteer thing, it was whatever unit was going. So people wanted to go and unfortunately didn't get to go. But that doesn't mean there's service back here or paying our checks or making the food or all of those other jobs that they think are not important. They are absolutely essential to the military machine.
Exactly.
Whether
It
you're a
takes everybody.
typist or whether you're paying me or whether you're providing church services, everybody is valuable. And without that one cog in the machine, the whole thing wouldn't work.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
all service is valued.
Exactly. So that kind of leads us into this book. We Are Not Invisible.
We are not invisible. I was talking about the I Am Not Invisible campaign. So it is a display that we have of 29 Minnesota women veterans that we just put up a Facebook thing and say, any women veterans in the area, we need to start this campaign. So, and it's next weekend. So some people didn't hear about it and some people were out of state or had plans. So whoever showed up got to be part of it, which was not the way to do it, but
It worked.
it worked. So we had a professional photographer and she took all of our pictures and now they're put on like a 2-foot by 3-foot poster on easels, and this display travels all over Minnesota. We've been to the state capitol, we've been to the state fair, we've been to many VFWs, we've been to the Twins game, we've been to the Lynx game. Right now it's at the Stillwater Library until Monday, and then it's going to go to the Stillwater Armory for a big event on November 2nd. So this is a traveling display, and it's traveled to Minnesota, and it was up in northern Minnesota, I believe in Hibbing, and one of our board members of WVI is a librarian up there, and she had it on display, and an author walked by, a woman, and she was looking at it, she goes, this is phenomenal. This should be a book.
Yep.
And so our board officer was talking to her, Chris Magnuson, and she said, well, what do you do? She goes, well, I'm an author. She goes, well, then you write the book. And the woman, Sandra Batala, who has written 2 other military biography kind of books, said, well, I don't have another book in me. But then as she went around and saw the pictures and read the stories on the poster, she said, I have to do this. So she collected stories from all of these 26 women. So we wrote down our stories, and then she consolidated them into the book.
Very nice. Now, you're in this book.
And I am in this book. Yes, I am. There's 26 Minnesota women veterans, World War II, Vietnam, Korea, current conflict, in this book. And what's really unique and generous is this author, Sandra Butala. All the books she writes, she makes no money. She donates all profits to veterans organizations. Her other 2 books were going to a veterans home in Hastings and a VFW. All the profits from this book are returning back to the Women's Veterans Initiative for services for women veterans, housing, retreats, and to hopefully create another wave of I Am Not Invisible portraits that can travel the state so we can bring other women and tell their stories.
Very good, very good. I know we were also talking that women do have kind of a sad statistic coming up.
Yes, we do.
We are among the highest increased in women's homelessness.
And women veteran homelessness is a growing statistic, and it's rising above the homeless men.
As well as suicide.
suicide, military suicide, we all know the statistics, 22 a day.
Yep.
And we're working to combat that with different programs. But women veterans, our rate of suicide is rising, and it's almost starting to eclipse the men.
And I think one of the things that might actually help that is to allow people to know that we are veterans. We have gone through different incidences. We all have a story.
We all have a story.
And it's when we don't feel like sometimes when we can tell our story of who we are, that all of that kind of gets trapped.
Right.
So to be able to come out, such as in the Women's Initiative program, to be able to come out with another group of women and actually be allowed to feel comfortable enough to express our stories and say, hey, this is some things that I've gone through.
Right. And for the women that were part of the book, this was very difficult for them. They shared things that they had never shared with anybody before. They shared things that their family didn't even know. Horrible things. And it was traumatic for some. And some retracted some of their things. I am not ready to share this with people. But it was very cathartic and therapeutic to actually put something in paper and have somebody validate it.
Exactly.
Like, this is my story.
Exactly.
And, some good, some ugly, but this is my story. And I would like all women veterans to have that opportunity to share.
Exactly. I totally agree. Whether it's with somebody at the Women's Initiative, whether it's with different veterans that they know, just to get out and to express some of the things that we've been through and come out and actually take a little pride in the fact that we did actually serve.
And there are so many organizations. I mean, Women's Veterans Initiative has Coffee Talk once a month, where it's more just a social get together. And last time there was a young woman there that had to go in front of a VA board and talk about her compensation and justify things, and that was very difficult. So we were kind of her cheering section and say, make sure you put it this way, make sure you use these words, and practice and rehearse so you can get it all out there. So we're supportive of each other, and whether you talk to somebody at Women's Veterans or you go to your local VFW or Legion, or I use that Combat Veteran Motorcycle Group, or you go out and you volunteer at Eagle's Nest or Haven for Heroes, there's other veterans there, and they share their stories, and all of a sudden, you're part of the group. Exactly. And at one point in time, you will feel comfortable enough to share your story.
Exactly, exactly. What information can you give to the next generation that's coming up? We have a lot of female veterans coming back from overseas. What are some of the things you'd like them to know?
Some of the things I would like them to know is they aren't alone. They are unique, but unique to a group that they can become part of. And that it's important not to oppress or repress feelings and emotions and events that have happened to you, to reach out, to get that support system, that mutual support system. I've got your six. You can call me anytime, day or night, and I will be there to help you. To get them into, be able to transition from being a military person back into civilian life. It sounds easy, but it is not. It is very difficult. I thought I was doing great. About a year into it, it's like, oh, these are red flags, I need help. And to be able to ask for help. It's courageous to ask for help. It's not a sign of weakness. And there are people out there. And I think women need to step up and take a seat at the table. You don't have to be asked. Take your rightful place at the table. We are equal to our brothers, veterans, that we need to ask for the services we need, ask for the help we need. We need to own our service, own our veteran status, and that's the only way we're going to get things changed. But it also fosters a healthier physically, mentally, and emotionally status for yourself. That one, you know
Exactly.
you aren't alone, and two, you're venting, you're sharing, you're getting the help you need, versus withdrawing and being distant and isolating yourself and not talking about these things. That's where you'll, spiral down into that rabbit hole, and that's not what we want. We don't want that to be the image of veterans. When veterans go out to be hired, we don't want someone to say, oh, that's a veteran, they have post-traumatic stress, or they could go out and get postal and go crazy, and we don't want to hire them. That's not the image we want to project.
Exactly.
We want to project, what skills we do offer the employer, male or female. So to tell women that to own it, to be proud of it, to wear your uniform proudly, or if you're not in uniform anymore, when someone says, are there veterans in the room, you raise your hand and stand up.
Exactly.
So I think that's what's really important.
And there is no such thing as just a veteran.
There is no such thing as just a veteran. No.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I know we've kind of covered a lot of ground. I want to make sure that you have in what you wanted to cover.
Okay. I would like people to know the web address for the Women's Veterans Initiative.
Okay.
And we have a Facebook page, a public page, and it's Women's Veterans Initiative, all one word, and at gmail.com is how we can be reached, or messages on Facebook that we have coffee talk once a month, and all of those events are posted on Facebook. That if anybody is interested in purchasing the book, it is $20 donation, and $10 of it goes back to provide services for women veterans.
Now, can they get that on the website?
We don't have a mechanism yet, but you can leave a message and it can be mailed out to you with an additional $5 postage. Or when we have our display up, we usually have a table from Women Veterans Initiative selling books. So the next opportunity is going to be on Monday at the Stillwater Library. Okay. We have one of our veterans talking about what does a veteran look like. So she's going to be talking about I Am Not Invisible and the book and women veterans, and our display is going to be up there. Women's Veterans Initiative has a web page, womenveteransinitiative.gmail.com. It's our email address, and we also have a Facebook page and a public page on Facebook. So you can go and you can check out what we offer, what events are available. We have a calendar where our I Am Not Invisible display is going to be traveling around the state. If anybody is interested in purchasing a book, We Are Not Invisible, it's a $20 charge for a book. $10 of it returns back to the Women's Veterans Initiative to go for services for women veterans. You can either buy those at any event that the display is traveling around the state, or if you go through the web page or on Facebook Messenger through our Facebook page, we can send it to you, your address, and then we'll have to ask for like a $5 postage fee. So you can communicate to us through there, or stop in at Coffee Talk and we'll have some.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming all the way
You're
out
welcome.
here, and it was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.